abolished in the 80s, and it was been recently reestablished, so it has been set at a superintendent level, which is a similar salary for other superintendents within the city. The Bureau of Street Lighting is here if you have any specific questions about the job itself. The salary is a little bit elevated because of additional duties and because of technological advances.
I don't know if you or Street Lighting can answer the question, but what were the technological advances that led to this change?
Carly Marquez, Bureau of Street Lighting. The superintendents now, they have a lot more work that they're doing right now. They're doing the LED, they're doing the solar. There are more employees that are under him. Before it was 60. Now it's more of 100 employees that's under him. So we also have transferred some maintenance work from DWP, so they're also overseeing that.
And isn't there some additional construction forces that have become? Yeah.
We have also construction, and before it was just maintenance. So we have a lot, the type of work that the superintendent is doing is, or the supervisor right now is doing, is a lot more.
Okay, well that sounds reasonable enough to me. So thank you, and we'll move that item.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And approve the CAO recommendations. Next is item number 5.
For item 5, this item was continued from your meeting of October 16 and was before you as a city attorney report as well as a revised ordinance. This has to do with an amendment to the municipal code in reference to the equine license fee to create a multi-year licensing option and to provide discounts for multi-year equine licenses.
And is there a representative from Animal Services here by any chance? Is there a representative from anyone here to speak to the item?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
This ordinance is actually consistent with the action of the Personnel Committee from 2 months ago. It was instruction to staff to bring back a revised ordinance to provide discounted equine license fees, and this is consistent with that instruction.
Yeah, I had some ancillary questions, but if nobody's here to answer them, I had some questions about Animal Services' method of outreach and licensing and how some of that's changed, but we can discuss that offline just as well. So I'll move this item. And the last item left is item 7. And I do have some questions on this one.
Rose Garcia with the Department of Water and Power and Labor Relations.
And Michael Koya from the Power System.
According to your report, DWP is utilizing electrical mechanics, machinists, and senior electrical testers to maintain these wind plants. Does this position eliminate the need for all of those?
Yeah, so
this
classification will then allow us to just have this one classification up at the wind plant, and then we'll no longer need to use all those 3 other. And there's a few more classifications to do the work.
And what's the city's outreach plan for filling these positions?
I've been working with our HR department and our public relations department, so we're going to be advertising on the internet. We're going to be advertising in the American Wind Energy Association, which is a national association for wind energy users and generators, and then also our own, City of Los Angeles outreach mechanisms. We actually too have created what we call a wind plant tech video, so it's almost like I call it like the dirty jobs of wind plant techs, because we really want to make sure that people understand that you have to be able to climb up to the top of the wind turbine and work on the components up there. So heights is an issue, and then obviously where these are located, you have the extreme heat and cold in the desert, and right now Mojave.
Great conditions conditions to work in nor conducive. I mean, obviously, our wind plants are in Tehachapi. I mean, they're not in an area where it's conducive to commute to and from. So it's considered an undesirable area as far as commuting goes, in addition to the conditions that they have to work in. So they did isn't it a YouTube video?
Well, but we produced it, yeah.
Yeah, so that people on the internet can see what it is that if they're interested in that type of work, what it is that they would be getting themselves involved in.
Yeah, with my fear of heights, I greatly appreciate the fact that someone other than me does this work. One more serious question. I'm not sure that the salary structure put forward by the DWP is exactly the same as what was approved by the ERC. So what's the story with that now?
Actually, we went back to IBW. It is in spirit, it is what was approved by ERC. It's actually slightly less. It looks a little higher because there was a COLA increase October 1st. ERC approved this in September. If we'd given them exactly what the COLA increase would have given them, the rates would have been, we took the ERC instructions and gave them exactly what you guys had given plus the COLA, it would have been higher than what's being proposed. What we did is we went back to IBW and explained that some of the figures, and I'll give you a couple examples. First of all, the low end, the trainee, was lowered from what we presented to ERC. We put it slightly lower because between the trainee and the very next level, there was only 4% difference, and instead of bumping up the next level, we lowered the bottom level. Between the lead and the journey lead and the journey lead, our MOU says we'll give 7% between those two for a lead pay. We looked at the figures, it was 7.5, so we lowered it to give 7% per the MOU. So we actually lowered the top and lowered the bottom, and the other two plugged in. But it looks higher because they got a COLA increase October 1, which is what we explained in the council letter.
So essentially, it's in the spirit of what the ERC approved. Clearly, there's nothing that anyone would object to, it sounds like.
Slightly less.
Marita Aspen from the CEO's office. Rose, I was looking at the ERC report, and it looked like for the trainee and the assistant level, what was approved by ERC, even if you add 2%, the top step is still more for the trainee and the assistant level. It looks like the journey and the journey lead, if you add 2% to what ERC approved, it comes up to these figures, but I'm still questioning the trainee and the assistant level.
The trainee, when we
salaries.
presented the trainee, we presented it as as a salary range, and they took the salary range and presented it as a salary range, and our trainees by MOU are supposed to be pegged to what they call the Peterson formula, which is 70% of the journey level rate, and that's explained in the footnote on page 3 of the council report. Our Article 37 says our trainees shall be pegged to the Peterson formula, which is Peterson is just a name for a craft formula, and it's applied to all training level positions, and it's benchmarked to the 5th step of the hourly rate of the journey level class. So we had to take the journey level class after we lowered it, and then peg it to the journey level class at 70%, and then at second step. In other words, it's not on a range.
Right.
First step is 70%, second step is 75% of the journey pay, third step is 80, and then 85 of the journey level pay. And we tried to explain that in the footnote on the council report.
Okay.
And those are our MOU provisions. We inappropriately presented it as a salary range when we negotiated the salary with IBW. We did it as a range as opposed to a Peterson formula. So when you do it as a range, you go to the range book and then the salary plays out. In this case, our trainees are not supposed to be pegged to a salary range. Does that help a little bit?
I don't have a copy of the actual ERC report. Do you happen to have one, Sharon?
I do. Give you mine.
Because the numbers, still to me,
I think that for that particular classification, the salary, the top step, there was about a $5 per hour difference, which is about 11 to 12% different. It doesn't account for the COLA. So that was the only question, is whether the salary range as proposed by the DWP for this classification is consistent with EERC direction. If it's not consistent with EERC direction, then typically these kind of matters are referred back for EERC consideration. Unless, there is a valid explanation for the difference. I don't have a copy of the DWP MOU, so I can't speak to, this Peterson formula and the 75%. So is there an urgency to this? If there is not an urgency, perhaps the CAO and our office can work with DWP to kind of look at it to see if it's consistent or not, and maybe have it.
Yeah, if there's no urgency, if it could come back to this committee at our next meeting. Is there great urgency to?
Well,
to
the only
that?
concern we have is we're working with personnel on the exam bulletin, and
That's all. It's holding up the
Yeah.
exam.
we're planning to hire a class of trainees like in the second quarter of next year. So that would be my only concern. We want to stay on schedule with that because it is a 4-year training program, and by the time we start producing journey level people.
This requires council approval, so I don't know if it's been scheduled for council
No.
yet. No. So it would be well
Well,
into
it's not going
next
to come
year.
back
We can-
until January anyway, so.
That's fine. Is it that you're asking it to go back to ERC, or do you want us to at least provide the backup as to why?
I think we'd want to make sure we're comfortable with this. Unless it's, unusually off, I think we could just forward it to council. In fact, maybe to expedite this a little bit, I'll approve it now conditional upon everybody checking it, and if we think there are any significant problems, then we can bring it back to committee.
Sure.
Thank you.
Otherwise, we'll move it to council, but I'll let everybody sort that out on its way so we don't slow down the process.
I'll provide the backup documents to CAO's office.
Great.
And just for the record, as you know, council will be in recess, so the first week we can schedule it will be the first week in January.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. So we move forward that item, and there being no other business on this lengthy agenda, we are adjourned. And happy holidays, everybody.